Back in 2020, when the world felt like it was slowly falling apart and the pandemic had everything upside down, I turned to driving for Uber just to survive. I had lost my retail job almost overnight, and bills don't wait for global crises to pass. Driving late nights became my routine. You meet all kinds of people, doing rideshare drunks, stumbling out of bars, lonely souls who want to talk, and sometimes passengers who say nothing at all. But nothing prepared me for what happened one Friday night in October. It was just after midnight when I dropped off a guest at a hotel near the edge of town. The streets were unusually quiet, that eerie kind of quiet that only exists late at night. Almost immediately, my phone buzzed with another request. Pickup was 6 minutes away, listed outside a bowling alley in a strip mall. The rider's name showed up as Derek. I accepted without hesitation. When I arrived, the parking lot felt abandoned. The bowling alley looked closed, lights mostly off, not a single car in sight. That's when I noticed him standing alone under a flickering parking lot light. He wore a gray hoodie and jeans, tall, maybe 6'2". His hands were buried in his pockets, head tilted downward like he was studying the pavement. I pulled up beside him. He looked at the car, but didn't wave. "You, Derek?" I asked through the open window. He nodded slowly. No smile, no greeting. He walked over and climbed into the back seat directly behind me. I started the trip and confirmed the destination, an address about 20 minutes away in a residential area I didn't recognize. "Yeah, that's right," he said. His voice was calm, flat, emotionless, not drunk, not nervous, just empty. For the first several minutes, the car was silent. I checked the rearview mirror now and then, and every single time, he was staring straight ahead, never at his phone, never out the window, just fixed on the back of my head. Trying to shake the tension, I asked, "How's your night going?" He paused before answering. "Just needed to get out of there." "Out of where?" I asked. "Doesn't matter." So I dropped it. As we got closer to the destination, the neighborhood changed. Streetlights disappeared. Houses sat far apart behind trees and long driveways. The address led us down a narrow road where everything felt isolated. Then suddenly, he leaned forward. "Pull into that driveway," he said, pointing to a house on the right. The place looked abandoned. No lights, no car, overgrown lawn, peeling paint. "This your place?" I asked. "Just pull in." Against my better judgment, I did. I stopped near the front of the house and put the car in park. He didn't move. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Wait here." He got out, walked toward the house, but instead of the front door, he went around the side and disappeared. I sat there, heart slowly pounding harder. 2 minutes passed, then another. Something felt deeply wrong. The ride was still active, but every instinct told me to leave. I ended the trip manually and started to back out. That's when I saw him coming back fast. His hands were empty. His face looked different now, not calm, almost excited. He opened the back door and got in. "Take me to the other place," he said. "What other place?" I asked. "Just drive. I'll tell you." "I can't," I said. "You need to put it in the app." He didn't respond. He just stared at me through the mirror. After a long pause, he finally said, "Take me back to where you picked me up." I didn't argue. The drive back felt suffocating. He didn't speak, but I could feel his eyes on me the entire time. The air felt heavy, like pressure building in the car. "Trying to break it," I said. "Rough night." "You could say that," he replied. "Everything all right?" I asked. "Not yet." When we reached the strip mall, I parked under the same flickering light. Before I could say anything, he leaned forward again. "Ever wonder how you're gonna die?" My stomach dropped. I forced a laugh. "Not really something I think about." "I think about it all the time," he said quietly. He opened the door, but didn't step out right away. He paused, half in the car, half out. Then he looked at me and said, "You picked the wrong guy up tonight." He shut the door and disappeared behind the bowling alley. I sat there shaking, too afraid to move. When I finally got home, I checked the trip details. The name was gone. No profile, no history. It was like the ride never existed. Uber support told me the data was unavailable. But I know what happened, and every time I get a late night request in a dark parking lot, I remember that voice, and I wonder if he ever found the right car. Back in 2020, during the chaos of the pandemic, I had started driving for Uber to make ends meet. I'd been laid off from my retail job, and I needed money fast. Driving at night was usually quiet and profitable, aside from the occasional drunk passenger or awkward conversation, but nothing prepared me for what happened that Friday in October. It was just past midnight when I finished dropping off a guest at a hotel on the outskirts of town. My app pinged almost immediately with a new request. The pickup was only 6 minutes away, in front of a closed bowling alley tucked into a quiet strip mall. The name on the ride said Derek. I accepted and drove over. When I arrived, the parking lot was nearly empty, lit only by a few dim streetlights. Derek was standing under one, tall and still, hands in his pockets, head down. No wave, no greeting. I rolled down the window. "You, Derek?" I asked. He looked up slowly and nodded, then got into the back seat. The ride began, and the address was about 20 minutes away in a suburban neighborhood. I barely knew. Derek didn't speak. He wasn't drunk, wasn't on his phone, he just sat there. Eyes forward, blank expression. I tried breaking the silence. "How's your night going?" I asked casually. He muttered something that sounded like needed to get out of there, and then fell silent again. About 15 minutes in, I realized the route was taking me through an isolated area. Large yards, no streetlights, dense trees. A feeling of unease settled over me. Derek suddenly leaned forward and said, "Actually, can you pull into that driveway?" He pointed to a dark, abandoned-looking house with peeling paint and an overgrown lawn. No cars were parked there. I hesitated. "Is this your place?" I asked. "Just pull in," he said flatly. I did. The house was completely dark, and he didn't get out. I asked again if everything was okay. He just stared at the front door and said, "Wait here." Then he walked around the side and disappeared from view. I sat frozen for 2 minutes, unsure of what to do. Finally, I ended the ride manually and began to back out. That's when I saw him walking back toward the car. Fast, hands empty, expression tense and unreadable. My gut screamed at me not to let him back in, but I unlocked the doors anyway to avoid a confrontation. He slid into the back seat. "Take me to the other place," he said. I froze. "What other place?" "Just drive." "I'll tell you," he replied, voice flat. I told him he needed to enter the address in the app. He didn't answer. After a tense pause, he said, "Drive back to where you picked me up." My stomach dropped. I followed his instructions, every nerve on edge. The drive was silent except for the hum of the engine, and I could feel him watching me through the rearview mirror. At one point, trying to lighten the tension, I said, "Rough night?" "You could say that," he replied. When we reached the bowling alley, I parked under the same light. Before I could speak, he leaned forward and asked, "Ever wonder how you're gonna die?" I froze. I laughed nervously, unsure how to respond. He didn't laugh back. "I think about it all the time," he said, then opened the door, stood half in and half out, and finally added, "You picked the wrong guy tonight." Then he walked off into the darkness. I sat there for a long minute, heart pounding. When I got home, I checked the trip history. The name had changed, was blank. No profile, no trip record. It was as if the ride had never happened. I reported it to Uber, but they said the data was unavailable. Sometimes it happens if the app crashes or if a ride is canceled midway. But I know what I saw. I know he got in my car. I know what he said, and I hope to God I never see him again. Even now, whenever I get a ping in a dimly lit parking lot or a silent passenger climbs into the back seat, I remember that night. I remember the feeling that something terrible could have happened. Maybe he just wanted to scare someone. Either way, the memory is etched in my mind forever.